Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate you coming up here on the Thanksgiving weekend. Rev Steve Adkins, the pastor of the church. Welcome you all here today. A couple quick housekeeping rules. Please silence your cell phones unless you're medical or law enforcement personnel. And I would like to have Ronnie light the candles.
Oh, yeah.
An adult-proof one here?
I think it has a safety one.
All right.
The body and the spirit are having a rough time today.
A lot of pressure there.
Doesn't know who that stranger is.
Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the first time. Dear Father God, may we feel the true feeling and set presence of Thanksgiving today, gathering here today in this church, going on its 4th year by the goodness and the grace of all that come here. We give thanks for this time, this place, and your presence within this congregation. May we truly feel each other's love and hope for each other, your love and hope for each one of us. And may we share that as we go forth from here. Amen.
Amen.
The next portion is a reading from the pastor. It's where I share something that's happened to me in this past week, which is a lot has happened, so I'm going to have to kind of pick one and go with it. And I put it through a spiritual perspective from something I'm trying to bring into my life. I call it turning spiritual knowledge into spiritual wisdom. Because as we all know, it's nice to learn this stuff in a group of like-minded people, but then you go out and crash headlong into the world out there trying to practice what you're learning. I was a member of an organization many years ago, and they used to say that the world's still the world, is still full of all the idiots and crazies that were there before you decided to change your way, and they're not changing their way at all. So when you become a spiritually minded person and try to practice these things, a lot of times you run head on into the difficulties. And you really have to have a faith in what you believe and how you practice what you're trying to bring out into the world. Many times you're the only one there that believes the way that you believe. Everybody else is going, that can't possibly work. That will never work. You can't be kind to everybody. You can't treat people right. Some of them will take advantage of you. Well, that's true, they will. I guess what came to me most this past week was I was remodeling my house in Casadega, and I'm having to move into it for a number of reasons. So I was remodeling and moving at the same time. Now I'm 60 plus years old, so when you go jacking 40-pound sheets of Durarock up on the 2nd floor of the building to nail it up there, it's a pretty good task. Doing plumbing, crawling under the house. That house wasn't meant for somebody my size or my age. So it was quite a bit of challenge. Unfortunately, I kind of about half know how to do that stuff, but it's quite difficult at times. You don't cut stuff right, you don't measure right. You swear to God the tape measure's leaking or something. But, you know, and it just nothing kept working out. And finally I said, you know, I've got to be too much into myself. I've got to be trying to do it my way too much. And a lot of people think that God only acts in your life in the big things, you know, the relationships and all that kind of stuff. But God and Spirit are in your life at every breath, at every action you take, at every thought you think, if you be quiet and allow Him to be there. And I came back to that belief I relaxed my mind, and suddenly the tape measure quit leaking. The cut started being a little straighter, and even though it wasn't perfect, I stopped being so critical of myself about the work that I was doing. And then I began to get a peace, even though it was still very, they didn't levitate or take any weight out of the sheet in and make the ladder any easier to stick up on the roof. You know, there are still the laws of the earth that apply. God will help in a lot of things, but the natural laws of the earth are the natural laws of the earth. And I can remember a time when I got extremely aggravated and just been aggravated all day and kept trying to work in an aggravated state of mind. But that's one of the main things that I've come to believe is that God and Spirit are there every breath, every action, every thought. That doesn't mean that they're going to do it for you, but it puts a broader mind on it. It puts a broader look at things and gives you more peace about what you're doing. So I would say to you to just take your time when things begin to get really difficult. Take your time. Don't rush to get through them. God works in the peace and the quiet, not in the rustle and the bustle of life. English is my friend. So it's still going on today. You don't know how many times I tied this tie this morning. How many times, so the confusion's still there. But thank you for being here. Ashkhen's going to share the rest of the service as I'm the lecturer and demonstrator. So let somebody do a little something for me.
Yeah. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Our service is comprised of 3 parts. The first part is the healing and the meditation. Second is the inspirational lecture. And third is the demonstration of spiritual gifts. So we will start with the first portion of the service, which is the healing. I would like to ask the healers to take their position behind the chair. Judy, Lorraine, for those who would like to receive hands-on healing, when you hear the chime, that indicates a chair has become available. Feel free to go to one of the empty chairs, or if you would like to go ahead of time, we have reserved chairs in the back. You can sit on there, and when the chair becomes available, you will be notified. And for those who would like to sit through the meditation, I will be guiding you with the meditation. Let us turn to the back of the yellow pages for the spiritual healing prayer and read it together. I ask the great unseen healing force to remove all obstructions from my mind and body and to restore me to perfect health. I ask this in all sincerity and honesty, and I will do my part. I ask this great unseen healing force to help both present and absent ones who are in need of help and to restore them to perfect health. I put my trust in the love and the power of God. Just get into a comfortable position. Feet straight on the ground, palms out in your laps. Take a few deep breaths, inhale and exhale. Let go of the tension. your physical body. Let go of the thoughts that are occupying your mind. Just let it go for now. Allow your body to relax and settle down. Bring your focus and your awareness to your breath. Engage in the mechanism of your breath. Just breathe naturally without stressing. Allow the natural flow of your breath to happen. That is flowing throughout your body with each inhale and exhale. Your body becoming more and more relaxed. And your mind becoming more and more quiet. Just follow your breath. It's taking you deeper and deeper within to a very peaceful and quiet presence within yourself. That is quiet, calm, and tranquil, soothing. Connect with this peaceful presence. While you breathe, repeat to yourself gently, I am at peace within and with my surroundings. Flowing throughout your body, your mind, your spirit. This is the true state of your consciousness. You are meant to be at peace. Always. regardless of what goes around in your life. You are meant to be at peace. Embrace this peaceful state of your consciousness and be still. Be still within. For it is in this stillness that you feel wholeness. It is in this stillness that you feel content. Content with who you are. It is in the silence and the quietness that you experience the higher aspects of your consciousness. It is in this quietness that you become aware of the inner voice that speaks within you. The inner whisper. The voice of your Creator. God the omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. That is within your soul and spirit. Become aware of this mighty presence that is within. And follow the voice of God that seeks the highest best, the highest good of yourself and the highest good of all. Become aware of the power of God that is within you, working through your mind, through your thinking process. Constantly encouraging you, guiding you, and leading you to make the right choices. You have the free will to choose. Follow that inner voice, the inner whisper, the voice of God and the creativity unfolding through your thoughts, empowering you, encouraging you to proceed with your life, to achieve your highest potentials, to find your divine purpose, the purpose that you chose to come back and fulfill. Be in communion with God. Surrender to the will of God. communicate with God. Turn over all your concerns, your worries. Ask if there is anything that you would like to know. Ask. And in this quietness, listen to that inner whisper, the inner voice that speaks to you. And trust it. Within each person, there is God. Within each soul, there is perfection. Focus on that perfection that is within each one of us. Rise above the human conditions, the human behaviors, and focus on the goodness that is within each one of us. For in God's eye, we are all one. In God's mind, we are a collective consciousness that seeks love, peace, unity, and harmony. Feel this unity consciousness and the universal love that holds each one of us together as one consciousness. A consciousness that is driven with one intention: love, peace, acceptance. In times of need, surrender to your higher self, to the higher power that is within you, that governs the entire universe and every sentient being. Embrace this universal power, creativity, and abundance that is all part of your consciousness, and put it into action. Envision your life at this moment. What is it that you would like to change? How would you like to see the world around you? The people that are in your life? Knowing that you have the creative power to create your realities, to create your world. See yourself in action. Creating the new you, the new situation, the new life that you desire. You have the power to create. Believe in yourself and have faith in yourself. Surrender to the will of God. Let thy will be done, God, in the eyes first. Let thy will be done. As above, so below. Start slowly coming back to your peaceful breath. Feel your peaceful breath bringing you back slowly to this room where you're sitting. Become aware of your physical senses. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. What a moving song. Even if one day you realize there is no one around you, always know that God is within you, around you, and everywhere. Okay, it's time for inspirational lecture. Our speaker today is Reverend Steve Adkins. We all know who Reverend Steve Adkins is. He is the founder of this church. I would like to mention when I first started coming here, there were Ronnie and Jody, and all three of them that had started this church. And as they moved to their demands of their lives, and the church continued, and I'm very happy to be part of it. So our speaker, back to him, Reverend Steve Adkins. He is an ordained minister, medium, healer, lecturer. Has been on his spiritual path for the past 25-30 years. And he's here again to share with us some of the spiritual principles that he has incorporated into his daily practice. So help me welcome our pastor, Reverend Steve Adkins.
See if this thing wants to work now. Thank you, Ashkhen, for that introduction. I'd like to thank Ronnie and Jody for coming. I can remember when we first started this church, he was the associate pastor, and Jody was the one that set all the coffee up every week. And we had 5 or 6 people here. That was almost 4 years ago. And I just want to let you all know how blessed I feel with the people that started the church, with all of you that come here, and whether you've been here once or 100 times, you've contributed to this church being what it is today. I mean, I could stand up here all day long and talk, and without somebody coming and putting their love and hope towards me, it would mean nothing. I guess today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got to where I'm at, because, you know, you think that if you get on a spiritual path, life is going to get easier. And while it gets more understandable and more acceptable, it rarely gets easier. You get a different perspective on things. You begin to see things in a different light. And you are less impacted by the world as the world being the world, and more convinced of your guidance in your spiritual path. The biggest thing you have to do is to be able to state what you believe. And you can even say you don't believe in God, which is fine. Because if you state what you believe, God will still work with you within that perspective. A mind that is undisciplined and aimless is the biggest detriment to people's spiritual progression. You have to have an idea in your mind of who you are and what you believe. Even if it doesn't sound very nice, state what you believe and God will work with you in that perspective. And just to give you a little background on me, I started off in an Air Force family of 6. Grew up in parochial school, 5 brothers and sisters, loving family. About age 16, I discovered drugs, and for the next 5 years, I was an intravenous drug user. At which point, I found myself in prison for about 5 years. And right before I went into prison, a guy came up to the county jail and said that he could teach me something that would help us control our drug withdrawals. Because back then, there wasn't all the clinics and all the sympathy and outpouring for people. They threw you all in a jail cell and hoped you didn't die. Is how they dealt with drug addicts back then. You were a little more than scum in their minds. So this guy comes up there, and he's a student of Yogi Bhajan, and he come up there and he said, if you guys do what I tell you to do, I can teach you how to mentally control your drug withdrawals. And he was teaching us Kundalini Yoga with a religious belief system with it. Back then, yoga wasn't just body postures and breathing. It was a religious belief system. And the body postures taught you the discipline of the religious belief system. So, and he got us good food, and he taught us how to be vegetarians. And our only commitment was that we had to get up at 5 in the morning and for 2 hours do yoga, the chanting with the little mala beads, do all the chants that we were learning, and the yoga postures from 5 to 7, because that's when the world's quiet. That's when God speaks loudest, is what he felt. So I went through that, and I embraced that the whole time I was locked up. When the dust settled, I was locked up for 17 years, and I did 5 of it and got out. When I got out, I immediately became a drunk, and I drank for about 7 or 8 years, and then along with that, I got married and brought 2 kids into that hell. And then I found a group that helps people get sober, and I never looked back. It's based on spiritual principles. It's based on you helping yourself, you being responsible for what you do. And it's geared to having a spiritual awakening, which I did have, and I never used again. That was about 35, 36 years old. But I'm here to tell you that even I've been through all that. Life is still as challenging, even though I've come through all that. Been through drug addiction, through alcoholism, through just hating the world for years. Life can still be very challenging, and it can still drive you back if you're not careful. You don't really realize how far out of the jungle you are until you get challenged really hard, physically, and you really see what your spiritual belief system is worth. Spiritual beliefs don't mean anything until you put them on the line and you stand to lose something by sticking by them. There's a saying in that group I came from that says it's easy to be grateful when the bills are paid. You have to believe, and you have to believe all the time. It can't be step away from it when it gets a little scary, gets a little challenging, or what you know is normal, whether it's alcoholism or being a violent person, pulls you as hard as your spiritual belief system pulls you. I sat down and I used to be a pretty good healer at one time, a couple of years ago. I could remove physical ailments in one treatment through the power of God channeling through me. And I started bit by bit getting angry with the world again over the last 2 years. And I kept going back and forth between my spiritual beliefs and my anger. And I sat down and I started meditating again for an hour at a time in the silence of the seance room in the back of the Casadega Church, which is it's a technique I learned when I was in Kundalini Yoga. It's a mind-altering meditation. And when you come back, you're a lot calmer, the world's not so tough, and it's sitting in the power of God is what it is. Now, the world tends to knock that right out of you again, like I said. As soon as you get out there and start encountering people and places and things, and they're not really trying to, they're just being themselves. It isn't personal. It's just the way they are. And so I started meditating again. I said, I want to become a good healer again and a good medium. And so for the past 6 or 8 months, I've been on a collision course with my life and myself, getting bumped around, moved to different places, encountering different things. And last week, through a series of events that were not exactly along those lines, I ended up moving into our second house in Casadega. Now, the last 4 days, I've been remodeling the bathroom, I've been repainting the house, I've been putting siding on it, and it's been one tough deal. Plus, I was moving into it. It's a beautiful old house built in 1910, a lot of character, just a wonderful, warm house. Now, me and my wife aren't separating, we're still involved, but outside circumstances, her daughter and my son kind of made it to where we had to do this. Her daughter's wanting to go back to college, and in 3 months she's going to be moving to Michigan, so she wants to spend time with her daughter. My son needs help getting back his child from DCF, and they want to use a house as a reunification, the one in Casadega. I'm going to help him, she's going to help her, and we had a nice time. We went out on a date last night, which is kind of nice. So we're still together, we're not separating or splitting, but there's a lot of quiet time in that house. A lot of quiet time. And I noticed one thing when I was locked up. You either meet yourself head on, or you spend the whole time hiding from yourself, telling stories to people, making up stuff. You can use it as a cloistered atmosphere to get yourself right, or you can hide from yourself the whole time. So this is a lot like that. There's a lot of quiet time. And the first night there, I was almost afraid to be in the house by myself. And it's just that mind, you know, that monkey mind playing with you. Running all these thoughts through your mind. And it was similar to what I told you about last time I did the thoughts of the day, that guy with the road, talking about closing the road. You have to keep shining light in your mind. Every time those thoughts crowd in there, even if you got to do it every 5 minutes of your waking life, you stop and meditate on a spiritual symbol, a spiritual thought, a happy thought. Just stop the thought right in the middle. Because if you don't, it begins to be all-consuming and all that you can think about. And you begin having all these thoughts about how things are going to go and what you're going to do about things that may never happen. Keep your mind on spiritual thoughts. Keep your mind in the now. That's how you combat those kinds of things. Every time one of those thoughts starts to creep in, stop it short And I don't care if you want to meditate on a crucifix, a stone that you like, some sort of symbol that gives you a warm feeling, some thought, some passage. It doesn't matter. Get that thing that you can continually bring into your mind when those kind of thoughts come into it. I'm not saying there isn't some things in the physical realm that you don't have to deal with and think about. But there's a difference between worry and fear and dealing with life on life's terms. There's a big difference. There's a saying that worry is like a thin stream through the mind. If unchecked, it becomes a raging torrent into what all other thought flows. You have to check that as soon as it starts, as soon as it begins to get in your mind. And what replaces it when you do that is a comfort, a knowing that God is with you every breath, every action, every thought, if you take time to feel it. It's there. It's not something that happens because you want it to happen. It's there and you're just not paying attention to it. You're not putting your mind on it. It's there constantly. It doesn't have to be beseeched from God to come to you. It doesn't have to be deserving to come to you. It is there by your birthright of being a spiritual person, constantly and unending. It's our awareness of it that is lacking, not the presence or the fulfillment of spirit and God's trust. One of the worst things that has happened to us in today's realm is mental pollution. All other kinds of pollution we hear about and think about. Mental pollution is without a doubt the worst. We're bombarded by people that are meaning well. We're bombarded by people that want to scare us and shock us in the news media, on the TV, on the radio, and even people that decide to repeat that garbage to you. We get so wound up and so tense about things that we have no control over, about things that we can't even affect. And it gets to a boiling point to where when the one we love the most says something to us, we fly off the handle at them. It gets to that point where when you're driving down the road and somebody who may well be in an emergency situation trying to get somewhere cuts you off. And you go angry as the dickens, speed up and either do sign language or gestures of some sort. And this person may already be stressed. They may be on the way to a hospital. And that happened to me once. That really happened to me. Some guy cut me off and almost hit my car, and I made him pull over. And he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "I'm on my way to the hospital. My dad's dying." You never know. You shouldn't know, and it's none of your business. Your business is how you act. You're responsible for every time you act, every way you act, everything you do, regardless of the reason why you do it. They made me do it, fine, you did it. Change how you react to what they make you do. The hardest thing, like I said, is checking those thoughts because it starts. It's not this huge thing that really ticks you off. It's a series of little things. Dropping something on the floor, stubbing your toe, something not working right at work, and it just keeps building and building and building until you don't realize what's happening to you and you just lose it. And you think it's the last one through the door that made you lose it. It's you over a day or two getting more and more aggravated over small things most of the time. Rarely is it one incident that makes you fly off the handle because we're very spiritual people as a general rule. The natural way of people is to be a spiritual person. And when they get wound up like a clock spring, they're not spiritual. Emma Hardage Britton has 10 Laws of Right, something that I subscribe to very much. And they're in this blue handout in the back. This was tranced by a medium to the world back in the 1800s. The first law of right says manifest temperance or balance in all things with regard to the physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. God provides opportunities. You have to take the steps. You have to be the one that takes the action. God provides opportunities, provides inspiration, and the spiritual emissaries, whether you believe they're your passed over loved ones, angels, whatever they are the special messengers from God that work with you in that perspective. They're there for you, just like God is. And that's what I mean by when I say God and Spirit, the spiritual emissaries that God sends to you. Be aware of them. How many of us remember when you were growing up and you said your prayers and you were told about your guardian angel? How many people sit and think about their guardian angel today? I mean, honestly, you know, take time to thank that angel for being there. I remember somebody told me one day, don't ride too fast. I said, well, I never ride faster. My angels can fly on a motorcycle. I said, I've been cussed out a few times, but they never left me. So, but think about your angels, my friend, your guardian angel, your personalized spirit from God. It's with you from birth to death. We all have one. So just take time to think about that. But like I said, it's been quite a ride the last week. And even though I'm a little distressed about the way it's turned out, there's a lot of positives to it. And I have to believe that I'm being led there. It's just like when I got locked up, I had two choices, get locked up or go to the grave. That's the two choices where my life was leading. And fortunately, there was an intervention, even though it was a bit of a radical one, that put me in a place of solitude for a little while. Wasn't a very nice place, but it was a place of solitude. So I ask you to just think about these things through the week. I ask you to take time to think about God in your life on a daily basis. Don't get so caught up in earthly things. Now again, the balance, just like Emma Hardage Britton said, there's a balance in all of these things. You can't sit at home and meditate real hard and hit the lottery one day and think that's going to solve your financial problems. You have to get up and do the legwork, because everything you go to do is a learning for you. It is a challenge. It is an opportunity, whether it's going to work and doing something, whether it's meeting somebody somewhere, talking to them. It's all part of your spiritual development process. Spiritual development doesn't just happen in church or in meditation. Co-development, as spiritualists believe, is part of it is us and the world around us. Everywhere you go, everything you do, everything you say is part of your development. Every moment of every day. Not just when you're not too busy to be working, when you want to sit down and meditate. Meditation is personal instruction. The world is still your playground. The world is still your challenges and the way for you to act. You can think all the thoughts you want to think, but until you get out there and interact with the world, none of it means anything. None of it means a single thing. No matter how many verses you memorize, no matter how many lines you recite, none of it means anything until you can put it into practice. So get out into the world and practice, but be balanced. Jesus said, if you have two coats, give one away. He didn't say give them both away and I'll give you another one. Balance. Balance in what you do, balance in how you act. You have to keep what sustains you and give what's excess. Don't give away what sustains you. That's not celebrating your gifts that God's given you. You're not being grateful for what's been given to you. You're being aimless and flippant about it. Oh, I'll just get more. Let me keep giving it away, and I'll just keep getting more. Well, that's not necessarily true. Give away what is excess to your life. keep what you need to maintain your sanity and your housing and your life. We all have excess in some fashion. Realize what that is. As I said, it's the reason I'm the way that I am is because one step in another direction leads me back to what I was. I choose not to be that person again. I was really good at it, but I had no friends. My family wouldn't be around me. No one would be around me. Even other criminals wouldn't be around me. It was a lonely life. Be happy with who you are today. Share that which you have to share, but keep that which you need to survive. In closing, I'll read the thought for the day. The eternal God is thy refuge. He is a sanctuary, a refuge from the cares of life. You can get away from the misunderstanding of others by retiring into your own place of meditation. But from yourself, from your sense of failure, your weaknesses, your shortcomings, whither can you flee? Only to the eternal God, your refuge, until the immensity of his Spirit envelopes your spirit and it loses its smallness and weakness and comes into harmony again with God. Thank you for listening today.